I kind of want to dig onto something when you said asset that grows. It took a while even for that. Like what is an asset, and understanding that as of right now, yes, you can put money in stock, and how do you treat that as an asset? And it took me a while to figure that out. Or versus looking on saving some money to build a business as an asset, or a real estate property as an asset. It's always so ambiguous when I say build assets. I always been told build assets, build that. Look, what the fuck are assets?
Especially
Like what
when
is it?
like an asset, when someone miscategorizes an asset so
Mm-hmm.
that they can call it an asset. Like, I bought this Jordan shoe. Like, speculative collectible items, I don't know if they're always going to be assets. I guess they're high risk assets.
Yeah, they're high. I would say a high collectibles and that kind of set would be a high risk asset, as you could just buy a very volatile stock. But what is it for me? It wasn't saying buying stock as an asset, and I need to view it as that, not just buy and sell stock, because it's a totally different kind of game. To grow wealth and just start set yourself up for the future. And it took me a while to even understand that, and just playing the long game of things like that Warren Buffett effect. Just if you don't really know, just put in the SP 500, call it a day, and that in itself is the asset, because I think quarter every year they give out the dividends and reinvesting into it. So again, at the end of the day, it's still making money for you instead of actively buying and selling a stock, which is not really an asset now. It's just a I want to say ticket, but
Buying
a
individual stocks is
currency,
risky.
just that realm of an asset that could be misconstrued.
I'm sure we could go on Investopedia
Oh,
and
big thing.
find
Yeah.
like a actual definition. The way I look at an asset or a liability, an asset ideally will appreciate, a liability will depreciate, and then there's like a sliding scale around the certainty that is involved with the chance of it appreciating versus the chance of it depreciating.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say speculative collectible items are more on the line between liability and a liability and an asset, because the certainty that's involved with it appreciating is a lot less than something like the S&P 500, which you can look back historically over time. The certainty of it going up over a long period of time is like a lot more certain than like this one specific shoe, card, whatever, right? Or like rookie cards, you buy the cards up front, you don't know what that person accomplishes for years down the line, of
And
whether
you're
that's
just
going to be
hoping it hits.
boom or bust. You're like, I don't know. I don't know.
No, that's just crazy. It is interesting. So how did that conversation with your family go with when you said that? How did they go off, and how they react, and how that turmoil kind of settle?
My mindset with money is buy your liabilities with the yields from your assets. And a lot of the times that means you have to push off a lot of what you want to a later date, because building the asset takes a lot longer than I have money today, I can go and spend it on something
and get it, and not really. Yeah.
But it's also not binary. I think you can have, let's say you got a bonus at the end of the year, it's $10,000. That's $10,000 that you didn't bake into all the stuff that you were going to spend on for the year. Take 50% of it, throw it in savings, and then spend the other 50% of it. And 50% of it went towards something down the line that's going to be beneficial. And the 5,000 of it is kind of like the reward for working hard or whatever. So you can kind of get a little bit of like a treat along the way. I think there's a large subset of people that I know that would have spent the 10K.
Yeah. For me, I actually had a really good return with, again, the LLC stuff, but it's 75% is going in as high yield savings for something bigger. I don't know what it is yet. It could be a real estate thing, or just, again, growing a boring business, but I'm starting my pot. It's very small, takes time. And I was like, at least it felt good just to put that money away versus me blowing it. And I still have something. I was like, okay, this was my first year after to actually have a decent positive, instead of fuck, I gotta use this to pay off this debt, I gotta use this to pay off that, or we're gonna blow it and spend on this. I've done years past, and I was like, it felt really good just to say, at the end of this, I had a small but a growing positive that can start to snowball.
There was someone I was talking to, and they just automated it where anything that comes in, a certain percentage gets put aside. And so by them not even seeing it, they don't have to go through the personal decision making of, ooh, there's, $5,000. What do I do with it? You're like, I got $3,000 of it, and that's it.
Wait, isn't that more of the Ramit Sethi of Teach You to Be Rich? Because it's put it away, you don't really see it, you just automatically go into this, and that's what I do. I put all these small little bundles, and sometimes my girlfriend's like, "How you say you're broke, but you can buy these things?" But yeah, I'm broke, but I put money aside for these small categories of a hobby fund of small $25-$50 a month, and I don't really spend much on hobbies until month 6, and they accumulated to be $300 if I was 50 on averaging $50 a week. Like my magic stuff, I just never bought anything hobby wise or anything I needed, and 3 months later, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna buy these volatile collectibles and see what happens. It was my sort of FU money, and it just slowly grew over time, and then I could decide what I did with it instead of just kind of blowing it right away.
I'm always in a state of I'm broke. I don't think it's ever changed.
I make sure I keep my checking account extremely low.
Yeah, so like you look at it on like the app or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, there's only
broke
$500. What the heck?
Oh my god.
Sure, there's a bunch of accounts doing other things, but yeah, you ignore those.
I think this is the most active account on broke.
Yeah,
so yeah, it is interesting. I think understanding 1%, but to challenge it, I know you want to be the 1% making 600 a year, and for me, I just want to kind of have that just fuck you money. To me, that's a rich life. That makes me 1% to say I could be on a standpoint of fuck you, pretty much.
I don't want to be the 1% for the sake of being 1%. The product of my the math that I've done just happens to align with I need to get to that point so that I can afford what I want. The goal is that I just right. It's remember when we were in the fraternity and we were striving to be one of the best chapters of DSP in the nation, and it was well, do we try to be the best on campus, or do we strive to be the best in the nation, and then the result is we happen to be the best on campus? Same kind of philosophy.
It just trickles down.
Yeah, it trickles down. Being a 1% person, and it just happens to be that because the number happens to be that. But if the things that I wanted to mathematically achieve and accomplish happen to be below the $600,000 threshold, then okay, great, I'm top 5%. But it's not like the goal was 5% or 1%, but it just happened to fall that way with the way the math played out.
That's fair.
Yeah, math. Like math. If we could throw it in a spreadsheet, let's go.
I know. I also want to talk about just on the 1% stuff. I'm gonna do a small round on social media just about that, and how everyone seems so easy. You can do this so easy, and I just want to. It's not. It takes planning. It takes so much time, and I didn't get this time until 28, and it didn't click until I was 28, and slowly growing it now. It's such a slow burn, and you can't expect something to happen so fast. And I feel, again, people feel this so discouraged if it's not happening on the first deal. And what does it mean to even make a deal first to buy a boring business? And I know we talked about that in the previous podcast, but I don't know what I'm going to buy. I don't know how. I'm still learning, and that in itself takes time. You just can't dive into it and say, and that's where something dangerous can happen. Or you're going to put all this money in the stock without properly researching it, and that takes time on what does it mean as an asset, as a stock or investment, an index fund, and something like that. So I think that was the hard part on trying to quote unquote trying to be a 1%er. That just takes so much time. So I just want to go on my soapbox and just say everything takes time, and I feel like everything out there in the internet world shows that you can just do it tomorrow, and it's not always like that.
The 1% is the 1% because it's the 1%. If everyone was there, it'd be the 100%, and it'd be a new defined 1%.